Hey everybody, welcome to Gary Talks. A few years ago, a movie came out called The Accountant, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't excited to see it, so I never got around to watching it. All of my friends kept telling me, Gary, you gotta see The Accountant, you'll love it, it's a fun movie, and finally I did watch it, and I loved it. There's a brand new sequel in theaters now called The Accountant 2, so in honor of that, I thought this week I would look at my 10 favorite Ben Affleck movies. And I have some very special guests from The Accountant 2. Jon Bernthal, Daniella Pineda, J.K. Simmons, and the man himself, Ben Affleck. I don't know if it's because he's in the tabloids all the time, or there are these memes of him looking frustrated, or what, but we always seem to forget that Ben Affleck is a really talented actor and a great director, so putting together a list of his 10 best films was harder than I thought it would be. I did give myself one rule though. In order to count as a Ben Affleck film, he had to be either the lead actor or the main supporting actor. A smaller role wouldn't count as a Ben Affleck movie. Now there is one movie on the list where that's a little bit borderline, but it was the kind of movie I felt I had to include. There are two of his early movies that would have certainly topped my list had I included them, but because he had such small parts, I didn't, and those are Dazed and Confused and Mallrats. I love both of them, but he was barely in them, so it just doesn't count. So what does count? Let's start with number 10, Changing Lanes. Changing Lanes is a morally charged thriller that elevates a simple car accident into a gripping exploration of guilt, revenge, and redemption. Ben Affleck and Samuel L. Jackson deliver powerhouse performances. Affleck as a rising attorney whose veneer of control begins to crack, and Jackson as a recovering alcoholic whose life is upended by a moment of carelessness. The film's strength lies in its refusal to paint heroes or villains. Instead, it crafts two flawed but deeply human characters whose choices spiral out of control. Director Roger Mitchell maintains a brisk pace while the script offers sharp commentary on class, privilege, and accountability. With its intelligent plot and emotional intensity, Changing Lanes is more than a thriller. It's really a compelling moral fable. Before we continue on with the top 10, here's my interview with the man who played Shane on The Walking Dead, Frank Castle the Punisher, and Braxton in the Accountant franchise, Jon Bernthal. First off, I want to say that one of the things I really love about the Accountant movies is the relationship, or should I say lack thereof, between the two brothers.
I think that these guys grew up in an incredibly complicated way, and this film, although is sort of a Trojan horse for all kinds of sort of traumatic. Kids being raised in traumatic situations. It's a Trojan horse for sort of folks that are growing up on the spectrum, and what that does and how that is, for the entire family. And it's sort of again delivered in this Trojan horse of being an action film. And there was no shortcuts taken in this second film. It was not, hey, we can do sort of an easier version and just get it out there. It was really, it was a deeper dive into the relationship. It was a deeper dive into the wound that took place in this family, and that's something I'm all on board for. And I've always thought with Brax, especially, he's as equally complicated a person as his brother is, and I was enormously grateful and happy that they decided to dive into his character this way.
Well, and I have to say, you've played some great characters, but I think that Braxton might be my favorite of all the ones you've played.
And truthfully, with Brax, he's lived his entire adult life, the majority of his life, looking only at he like so many of us are. They live in response to their main wound, the main wound of their life, and the main wound of Brax's life is his brother sort of rejecting him and losing contact with him. That was his one person, and honestly, I think for Brax, when he sees how committed Chris is, his brother, to Ray and to figuring this thing out, I think he's hurt by it.
Well, I gotta say, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, but when I watched the movie and I found out that the two brothers hadn't been in touch since the end of the first movie, I was kind of hurt as well. What was it like to reconnect, so to speak, with Ben Affleck on The Accountant 2?
It's great to be with Ben. I mean, it's just great. Yeah, I think we were able to bond on this one. Last time we didn't spend that much time with each other, but we really did on this, and we really got close. And he and I just had sort of an ease and a rapport right from the jump, both on screen and off. And I'm really grateful for it. I admire him so much. The thing about Ben is, he's not only this sort of icon and this brilliant actor, he's an enormously intelligent, vulnerable, sensitive, kind person. And look, he's the guy here. He's the big boss too, and he's a brilliant filmmaker, to boot. And I've been blown away with his ability to sort of temper himself and let everybody kind of do their thing, and him just sort of settle into the role of being the lead actor, not the studio head, and it's been really, but also at times to sort of step in and say, hey, this is what sort of needs to be done here. I think he's done it with elegance, and I think he's done it with grace, and I have enormous respect for him.
Well, finally, I think that The First Accountant took a lot of people by surprise. People weren't really expecting it to be a huge movie for whatever reason. But now, for the sequel, the expectations are super high. Does that ever factor into your performance?
Look, I hope people dig it. I really hope people dig this movie. I think that there is a ton of heart behind this movie. I think there's a ton of heart. I think it came from love. I think again, there's no shortcuts on this film. I think that it's a sequel, but it's also a standalone film. I think that there's so much love, again, for these characters and for this family at the core of the film. And every part of the process, every part of the journey along the way was kind of made from that. So yeah, there will be unbelievable action. There will be heart-wrenching scenes and heart-wrenching stakes. And we will get behind the mission of the film, the sort of puzzle-like quality of the first film, trying to figure it out. I think it's there to a certain extent, but this one is so much more down and dirty. It's so much more about the emotions and the connections and what these characters want. But I think you'll see that. I think that's the biggest takeaway. I think you're going to see that this story is so much more about it. There's just so much more heart in this version, and I think people are going to dig it.
I have to say that I'm not a big fan of Ben Affleck's Batman. Other than George Clooney, he's probably my least favorite. But coming in at number 9 is a movie where he played Batman, and I really loved this one. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a triumphant reclamation of vision and voice, a bold, operatic epic that transforms a once fragmented film into a cohesive and emotionally resonant superhero saga. Running 4 hours, the film earns its length with richer character development, especially for Cyborg and Flash, who finally feel like essential parts of the team. Zack Snyder's signature visual style, mythic, stylized, and sweeping, is on full display. The stakes feel higher, the action more thrilling, and the emotional core far more impactful. This isn't just a director's cut, it's a full-fledged redemption arc for both the filmmaker and his heroes. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a passionate and satisfying culmination that delivers justice to its characters and its creator. I mentioned earlier how much I love Mallrats, and I've always been a fan of the Kevin Smith Jay and Silent Bob films. Back when this movie came out, it was kind of marketed as the first non-Jay and Silent Bob film from Kevin Smith. So imagine my surprise when I'm at the theater watching it when Jay and Silent Bob showed up. I love this movie, it's really good, and it holds up well. Coming in at number 8, Chasing Amy. In the films of Kevin Smith, Chasing Amy is easily the most emotionally mature and thought-provoking film. It blends his trademark dialogue with the surprisingly heartfelt exploration of love, identity, and insecurity. Ben Affleck delivers a career-defining performance as Holden, a comic book artist who falls for Alyssa, played with charm and vulnerability by Joey Lauren Adams. What begins as a quirky romantic comedy evolves into a nuanced look at sexual fluidity and the complications of loving someone with a past you don't fully understand. Smith's writing is raw, honest, and often painfully real, tackling taboo topics with empathy and humor. Backed by a strong supporting cast and a killer 90s indie soundtrack, Chasing Amy is a bold film that proves romantic comedies can be smart, messy, and deeply human. Next up at number 7, Gone Girl. Gone Girl is a masterclass in psychological suspense, expertly directed by David Fincher and anchored by mesmerizing performances from Rosamund Pike and Ben Affleck. Adapted from Gillian Flynn's best-selling novel, the film dives into the dark underbelly of marriage and media manipulation with icy precision and razor-sharp wit. Pike's portrayal of Amy Dunn is chilling, layered, and utterly unforgettable, a performance that oscillates between victim and villain with effortless control. Affleck shines as the enigmatic Nick, perfectly cast in a role that plays on public perception and buried guilt. Fincher's sleek, cold visual style pairs perfectly with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's haunting score, building tension until it's almost unbearable. Gone Girl is biting social commentary and a darkly entertaining puzzle box that keeps you guessing until the very end. Before we continue on with my top 10, here's my interview with the newest addition to the accountant universe, Daniella Pineda. One of the many things I love about the accountant movies is that there's usually one character at least that the audience doesn't know who this person is. It's a mystery trying to figure out what's going on, and in this movie, that character is played by you. What's it like acting as a character when you know the audience is spending the whole movie wondering what's your story?
Well, when I first got this part, I thought that she was like a supporting character who maybe had like a cool scene. I thought, oh, this is going to be a cool little cameo in this movie. I hadn't read the script yet. And then when I read the script, I was like, oh, the entire film is about this character. That's crazy. So I was pretty stoked. But I was also deeply surprised the level of, she's a bit of an anti-hero, but I was surprised the level of her predatory nature.
Well, and another thing that I love about these movies is that they take these anti-heroes like Brax and even Chris, and they somehow make them into characters that the audience falls in love with. Do you think that this will happen with your character as well?
I think that, they just made the introduction, right? I feel like the movie sort of leaves you wondering, okay, who is this person? What's going to happen next? And without giving too much away, I feel as though they've created a setup and that you will definitely see her again.
Well, and these movies are really action-packed, and you get to have a really badass fight with Mary Beth Medina. How much training went into this fight, and how long did it take to shoot that scene?
So we actually, thankfully, Gavin and production scheduled that fight at the end of the movie. So Cynthia and I were like, oh, good, because we wanted time to train, and it's a lengthy fight scene. So we started immediately before production started, and she and I were basically with stunts training for this. Basically, it's like a dance, it's like a choreographed dance, but you also have to make it look fresh and you have to make it look real and you can't make it look rehearsed, and you also have to get in shape. And I had to learn Muay Thai, which, I've done a lot of boxing and I've done a lot of other combat training before, but I've never done Muay Thai. That was different for me. Also Cynthia in real life has a mean kick. But it was hard. it was really tough, but I think we pulled it off. Gavin also said something I thought was so interesting. If you've seen Gavin's other movies like Warrior and they have a lot of combat, they have a lot of fighting, and he's worked with real MMA fighters. And he told me, he said, just so you know, the real MMA fighters, they are pros and they're not prepared to do 14-hour shoot days. So just your endurance has to really be up, and boy, was he not kidding.
Well, so far we haven't seen your character go one-on-one with either Brax or Chris, but if she did, who do you think would win?
On ice. Now, if it's just physical, obviously those are two big guys, but I think the whole point is that she's you'll find out when you watch the movie, but she's very, very smart, so the person who's usually the smartest in the room is going to figure out how to take the other two out.
So this episode of Gary Talks is dedicated to the movies of Ben Affleck. Other than the accountant movies, what's your favorite Ben Affleck movie?
Oh, I'm going to have to say Goodwill Hunting. I know that's the one that he won the Oscar for, but I just genuinely really, really love that movie. And I also love that he was the screenwriter for it, and that I'm a screenwriter, I'm a director as well, so I really admire that about him. So I'm gonna have to say Goodwill Hunting.
Speaking of yourself as a director, would you one day like to direct a big action movie like The Accountant 2?
Oh, heck yeah. I'd kill that. I mean, I'm going to try to direct my horror film first, but I love action and I love that world. I love Catherine Bigelow. I love all that stuff. So, hopefully the world will permit.
Coming in at number 6, an Oscar winner for Best Picture, Argo. A masterfully crafted political thriller, Argo blends tension, humor, and heart into one of the most compelling true story adaptations in modern cinema. Directed by and starring Ben Affleck, the film recounts the astonishing CIA operation to extract 6 American diplomats from Iran during the 1979 hostage crisis, using a fake Hollywood sci-fi movie as cover. Affleck's direction is tight and focused, building relentless suspense even when we already know the outcome, a true testament to the film's execution. The ensemble cast is stellar, with Alan Arkin especially stealing scenes as a jaded film producer whose deadpan delivery gives the film its satirical edge. The screenplay balances geopolitical complexity with human emotion, highlighting both the danger on the ground and the absurdity of the Hollywood cover story. The result is a fascinating intersection of showbiz and spycraft that never feels like a gimmick. It's not just a gripping thriller, it's a celebration of ingenuity, courage, and the strange, sometimes ridiculous lengths people will go to in the service of the greater good. At the top of the show, I mentioned that there was a movie that was borderline whether it should count because is Ben Affleck truly the main supporting actor? Well, the fact that Robin Williams won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor, I'd say he is the main supporting actor and Matt Damon is the lead actor, but because Ben Affleck co-wrote this film and won an Oscar for writing it, I felt it had to belong on the list. Goodwill Hunting. A profoundly moving and beautifully written drama, Goodwill Hunting explores genius, trauma, and human connection. Directed by Gus Van Sant and written by Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, the film tells the story of Will Hunting, a brilliant but troubled janitor from South Boston who's hiding his mathematical genius behind a wall of anger and deflection. Matt Damon gives a star-making performance, capturing Will's blend of brilliance and vulnerability with raw, authentic intensity. But it's Robin Williams who delivers one of the most deeply affecting performances of his career as Sean Maguire, the compassionate therapist who gently pushes Will to confront his pain and embrace his potential. Their scenes together are emotionally devastating in the best way, filled with understated power and truth. At its core, Goodwill Hunting is a story about learning to let go of fear, accept love, and choose growth over self-sabotage. It's timeless because it speaks to something universal, the struggle to believe we are worthy of happiness. I hate the term guilty pleasure movie. It's not something I really believe in because I think if you love a movie, you love it. You should never feel guilty because you like this movie that other people say sucks. But if I had to name a movie a guilty pleasure, it would be this next one. It's a movie that I know is not a good movie. It's a movie that doesn't even really make sense. And the cast talks about how it doesn't make sense, but at the same time, it is part of the Criterion Collection, and physical media collectors know that means it's a quality film. Coming in at number 4, Armageddon. Directed by Michael Bay, Armageddon is gloriously over the top, unapologetically loud, and absolutely packed with the kind of big-budget late 90s chaos that makes it one of the most entertaining disaster movies ever made. The film throws logic out the window and replaces it with oil drillers in space, slow-motion hero shots, and a rock soundtrack that could punch a hole in the asteroid. The plot? NASA trains roughneck oil workers to become astronauts, in 2 weeks, to save the world from a Texas-sized asteroid. It's absurd, and somehow, it still works. Bruce Willis growls, Steve Buscemi gets space dementia, and Liv Tyler cries while Aerosmith wails in the background. But the real treasure is Ben Affleck's DVD commentary. He openly questions the plot, mocks the science with lines like, "Wouldn't it be easier to teach astronauts how to drill?" And he shares behind-the-scenes stories with gleeful honesty. It's a must-listen for fans of the film. Despite its ridiculous premise, Armageddon has heart, energy, and a commitment to spectacle that's hard not to admire, and that's what makes it so much fun. Next up at number 3 is the movie that inspired this whole episode, The Accountant. A sharp, stylish thriller, The Accountant dares to blend action, character study, and a surprisingly heartfelt exploration of neurodivergence, and somehow makes it all work. At the center is Ben Affleck in one of his most quietly compelling performances. As Christian Wolff, a math savant with high-functioning autism, and a dangerous sideline in forensic accounting for criminal enterprises, Affleck delivers a restrained, introspective turn that gives the character real depth. Affleck doesn't play Wolff as cold or robotic, but as someone meticulously managing emotion, routine, and connection in a world that often overwhelms him. His precision, physicality, and subtle emotional beats elevate what could have been a gimmicky role into something genuinely human and even moving. The Accountant is a rare action thriller that doesn't just entertain. It challenges assumptions about what a hero can look like. And now here is my interview with the man, the myth, the legend, and the star of the Accountant franchise, Ben Affleck. I know you probably hear this a lot, but I think that Christian Wolff in the Accountant franchise is one of your best performances. How did you come up with this character?
He's a guy that I had thought about a lot, and because of the first movie, I developed some relationships with people that gave me a deeper, broader, more rich understanding, I think, of the character. And by the time I got to the filming this movie, I was the lucky beneficiary of some relationships in my own life that really helped, some people that I really love, and I just think are marvelous, spectacular, wonderful people who are very close to me, and in some ways had some similarities to this character, and so I'm just really lucky again in that regard, and I was not only able to, but I was excited to bring some of that to this part, and I just felt like, boy, you're lucky as an actor when you've got the closer and the sharper the sort of model or the inspiration for a character is, the more easily you can draw on it, the more easily you can kind of answer questions for yourself. And so I actually was much more excited and felt like I sort of understood this guy better.
And I think another thing that you don't get a lot of credit for is how great you are at comedies, which really brings this movie to a whole other level.
Really, humor to me is kind of the highest form of intelligence in a lot of ways, which I thought Christian should be funny. And some of the people who inspired this character in me were very funny people. And I want to bring that sense of humor in particular to life in the first one, and then much more so in this one. And I understood it better. And I really, I think, like, if someone makes us laugh, that we know we like them, kind of. You know, it's a way of connecting with one another, which sort of says, like, we share the same view of things and we find the same things ironic or absurd or incongruous or whatever it is. But it's like the reason you smile when you hear a joke is because it kind of lights a very particular kind of spark in us that I really think sort of connects us. Like, there's no humor really on your own. It has to be engendered by someone else, or oftentimes experienced in groups. Like, it makes laughter more powerful. And one of the really fun things about seeing this movie with an audience was hearing the laughter.
Well, I do have to say I love the movie, but one of the things that really surprised me was the fact that Christian did not reach out to his brother after he said he would at the end of the last movie. Why do you think that is?
Despite the fact that his brother sort of holds against him that he hasn't reached out to him, I think he's been kind of keeping tabs on his brother. And he's just more comfortable sort of putting his brother in that relationship in a place where he sort of knows it's there. But their different ways of approaching relationship have left his brother feeling like hurt and neglected and kind of ignored. And it isn't because Christian doesn't love him and care about him. He does very much. In fact, I think he really uses this opportunity of this events of this movie to reconnect with his brother because he wants to. He just doesn't have a reason.
Well, I've said how much everyone loves Christian, but I do have to say that Braxton is actually my favorite character in the Accountant franchise. Are you surprised how much people really love him? I mean, in a lot of ways, he's a villain.
I mean, Brax is wholly unencumbered by any sense of, what's legal or right or wrong. I mean, he really is a more, in terms of his work, he is sort of, I think, assumes as an assassin. Now, I don't know any real assassins, but I have to kind of assume that if there are such people, they, or at least in the case of Braxton, the way I reconcile the fact that I think he's fundamentally a good person who cares about his brother and a character that one likes watching the movie, he just assumes that and knows, in fact, that the people that he's hired to kill, he's really just the instrument of one bad guy killing another one, and here's some mob boss, mafia guy, Russian gangster, and he comforts himself with the idea that they're all bad people, and he's just doing a job. And I think all of us ultimately kind of struggle and try to assign some kind of order or sense of reason to our lives and choices we make. And, and there's also this sort of very classic appeal of the kind of hot-headed, like devil may care, whatever you want to say, character who's also quite roguish and likable. And I think what Jon Bernthal does in this movie is play that character in a way that's as good as anyone has done it. He's really wonderful and powerful and interesting to watch. You like the guy, and you find yourself kind of trying to square how it is you like him so much, and also knowing that he's like guy who kills people for a living.
Probably the most shocking movie on my list, shocking that it's included and shocking that it's ranked at number 2, is Jersey Girl. I know a lot of people hated it when it came out, but Jersey Girl really is a heartfelt, underrated gem, often overshadowed by Kevin Smith's edgier comedies. This tender father-daughter story deserves far more love than it gets. It's a beautifully simple film about grief, growing up, and letting go of who you thought you'd be to become who your child needs you to be. Ben Affleck delivers one of his most genuine and vulnerable performances as a widowed father struggling to raise his daughter while rebuilding his life. Affleck brings a quiet sincerity and emotional honesty to the role. Raquel Castro is absolutely charming as young Gertie, sharp, funny, and sweet without ever feeling precocious. Their chemistry is real and touching, and she more than holds her own opposite Affleck. Throw in a delightful supporting turn from George Carlin as the gruff yet loving grandfather, and you have a film that balances gentle humor with poignant emotion. Kevin Smith trades in his usual rapid-fire raunch for moments of quiet reflection, and it works beautifully. Jersey Girl is about love in all its messy, unexpected forms, and it's a film with genuine heart. And now for number 1, my favorite Ben Affleck movie, the one that really showed he was not only a great actor but a great director, The Town. Not just a top-tier heist thriller, The Town is Ben Affleck's finest film, both in front of and behind the camera. With this gritty, emotionally grounded crime drama, Affleck firmly established himself as a serious filmmaker with a key eye for tension, character, and place. Affleck stars as Doug McCrae, a career criminal torn between loyalty to his crew and a growing desire to escape the life that's defined him. His performance is layered and deeply empathetic, tough and capable, but haunted by regret. But where The Town really shines is Affleck's direction, from the nerve-shredding Fenway Park heist to the tender, slow-burn romance with Rebecca Hall's character. Every scene is meticulously crafted. The action is visceral and raw, but never overshadows the human story at its core. Affleck balances it all, showing a deep understanding of pacing, tone, and character arcs. It really is a masterclass in modern crime filmmaking, and it's Affleck's most accomplished work. We're almost out of time, but before I go, here's my interview with another of the stars of the Accountant franchise, J.K. Simmons. To start with, one of the big things everyone talked about with the first Accountant movie was that the lead character was a highly functioning autistic person. How much does that factor into The Accountant 2?
The whole neurodivergent aspect of the character and of the story of the first movie was a big part of what drew me to it, and the great lines like don't think of them as less than, think of them as other, And I know that Gavin and Bill, when they were researching all of this, and were concerned about, is this going to be remotely believable, I mean, they met a kid who was like a champion wrestler, like legitimate, high school wrestler, like a very powerful, and that was, where he was able to use his focus and his skills, and most of us by this time, in my case, through our kids, we know people who are on the spectrum and neurodivergent in different ways, and helping to create a space for them in the world. And again, it's such a great escalation of that in the sequel as we once again revisit the Academy and see how that ties into the story. Is brilliant.
Well, and you are great as always. Where does The Accountant 2 find your character, Ray King?
Ray King, 7 years later, is kind of a hybrid between the Ray King we thought we knew for most of the first movie, the sort of alpha male, hard-ass guy, and then we see that he was actually this schlub, lousy cop, fat, out of shape piece of garbage that encounters Christian, the first time. So the reality of, of who he is, I think, and Bill and Gavin and I talked about this off and on over the years, was, there's reality to both of those. He's somewhere in between. So now we see him essentially retired, he walks away. Mary Beth is now going to be, he left her in charge of answering the phone, if the call comes from the accountant, and spending a lot of time with his kids and his grandkids, and put out a private investigator shingle because once in a while there's a case that is meaningful to him. And again, we go back to that theme of family. The reason Ray King is even involved in this case is because Emmy's story, really tugged at his heartstrings about he wants to see his daughter, he wants to see his grandson, and that's what motivates Ray to pursue this particular case even more doggedly than he often does.
And one really cool thing was you got to have a really awesome bathroom brawl in the movie.
This time around, I get to have a little fun, a little play fighting, a little pretend fighting stuff, mayhem. Ray is kind of in a box and has to try and fight his way out. So it's not just Ben and Jon and the stunt guys that get to have fun this time. I'm involved as well.
And finally, what do you hope that audiences take away from The Accountant 2?
I think audiences are going to have another one of those edge of the seat kind of experiences with this movie, which is both due to the physical action and the brilliant, like really real fight sequences, but more importantly, the emotional edge of the seat as we ride this relationship, primarily the relationship between Christian and Braxton.
That's it for this week. Be sure and check out GaryTalks.tv. There you can find old episodes, find me on social media, leave comments, let me know what your favorite Ben Affleck movie is. Recently, I was a guest on the Dave Nemo Weekend Show on Sirius XM Road Dog Trucking Channel. We talked about all kinds of things, but one of the things we discussed is leading to next week's episode, where I look at my top 10 favorite trucker movies of all time. See you then.
From capes to tapes, Gary's on the case. He's breaking down each scene, every place. On Gary Talks, he's quick with his peculiar wit. From plot twists to the comic strips, Gary's flipping sick.